You know, when people start recognizing you as something, even around the office here, people show me deference all the time. My name's on their check, it's on the building, it's on everything, and it slipped in. And it wasn't until in 2007, when I was in India with my teacher, I felt like running away. I didn't know why. So I sat down and meditated. And what came up was, he showed me no deference. And he's not supposed to show me deference, but my system had become habituated to being shown deference. And I just went, wow, look at that, how slippery and how sly that is, and how the ego is so interested in, basking in that. You know, so the more successful you get, the more money you make, the more fame you get, you know, the opportunities to have a runaway ego become larger and larger, and one has to really pay attention, you know, to that. Or, you know, I think one of a few things can happen. One, you become isolated, and two, even if you continue to be successful and make money and get more fame, it becomes less fun, you know. So it's an interesting place we live in here, this place of duality. And there's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of stuff. So, anyways, so another story that is that I was going to tell earlier is that when I was in India in 2012, I was staying in my spiritual brother Sri Raman's center. It's like really, really beautiful place, and I had my own room, and so he calls me and he says, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Well, 5 days later he showed up, and like, you know, an hour went by, 2 hours went by, 3 hours went by, 5 hours went by, and I started feeling like I was really disrespected, because he said he'd be there in 20 minutes. So I looked at that sense in my mind and in my emotions, and I just got curious about, you know, how is it that I'm feeling disrespected? So I went into a very deep meditation and read some spiritual poetry and came out, you know, and felt a whole lot more surrendered. Well, the next day, he still hadn't come. I started feeling disrespected again. I wanted to get on a plane and go home, and I went, wow, look how strong that is. That is so curious. Here I am, you know, in the middle of something, and I want to run away. So I nested in the middle of those feelings and those emotions, which is really the thing to do. If you really want to understand yourself, when you feel unhappy, just nest. You know what a chicken does? It makes a nest and it just sort of, you know, scooches in and then lays an egg, right? Well, I nest in those feelings and those emotions, even the good ones. When I feel really, really good, I want to nest in it because, you know, I just want to go beyond the experience that I'm having. So again, you know, I got surrendered and I got really okay. Well, on the third day, he still hadn't come. I hadn't been able to get him on the phone, and I'm still starting to feel, you know, like, what is going on with this, and blah, 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 blah. So again, I just nested in it. I was like reading spiritual poetry and meditating for like 14 hours a day. In my room, in his center. And I remember one day, some people that were there that knew me, my door was closed, they knocked on the door and I said, come in. And they walked into the room about 6 inches, and then it was like they were thrown backwards. And they looked at me, and I looked at them. I didn't know what the heck was going on. And they said, "Do you know how hot it is in there?" And I said, "No, how hot is it?" They go, "I don't know, but I can't even walk in there." I thought, well, I don't know what that's about. I feel fine in here. They closed the door and left. And I had some flowers in my room. And they were put in my room when the flowers were put all throughout the center. And a week had gone by and all the flowers died, and they replaced them, except for my room. The flowers were still fresh and vibrant like they just got there. I don't know what that means or how it happened or why my room was perceived to be so hot. Then the 4th day went by, still hadn't heard from Sri Raman. And again, I'm spending 14 hours a day in prayer and meditation to just surrender all of my perceptions, all of my feelings, all of my understanding, letting go of what I thought should have happened. Because what we think should happen is really disrespecting God. God has a plan for us all. And when we think this and this and this should happen, we're trying to do God's job. God has a plan. And I've discovered that my plans usually sell me short from what is coming my way. Unbelievable good things come my way. So Sri Raman shows back up on the 5th day. And he comes in and he says, I don't know, he calls me Swaha. He says, "Swaha, you must be a king because I've driven 1,300 kilometers for you." He said, "Papa sent me to this guy, and then he sent me to this guy, and then he sent me to this guy to bring you this." And he brought me a jeweled box. Hand me that jeweled box.
This one?
Yeah. No, it's round and has gemstones on it. Hand me that, please. So he brings me this jeweled box. And he says, "You have no idea." And I said, "You're right, I have no idea." He said, "Papa sent me to a guy to get this." And I called him, and he said, "Come." And I got there, and he wanted 1,000,000 rupees, which is $20,000. And he said, I had no money. And I told him, well, Papa didn't say anything about paying for this or anything. He said, well, when Papa gave it to me, I gave him 1,000,000 rupee donation, and if he's going to pass it on to somebody else, I want my money back. Dumb idea. Dumb. But anyways, so Sri Raman called the guy and said, I need 1,000,000 rupees. And the guy wired it to him within 20 minutes. They got the 1,000,000 rupees, went and gave it to the guy and brought this to me. So I said, why did the guy wire you 1,000,000 rupees? He said, well, last year his son died. And he called me and asked if something could be done. And I called Maha Ananda Siddha, that's Siddha up there. And Siddha said, bring the body. This guy lived in Bombay, and Siddha was in the mountains outside of Bangalore. In a car in India in the summer. This was a 75-hour drive with a dead body.
Oh.
Can you imagine what it smelled like in that car? He gets there, Siddha goes down, lifts the child's foot, put his hand on the bottom of his foot, and he opened his eyes. Wow. And the father said to Sri Raman, if there's ever anything you want within my power, it's yours. So that's why he wired him the 1,000,000 rupees. Hmm. And he brought me this box. It's very old, and it's got a big hunk of Navapasanam in it. And every gemstone has got, there's 95 gemstones. There's 31 on the top, and there's 64 around. And every gemstone has two messages. One for the current guardian, which is me, and one for others. But I haven't been authorized to release the information yet. I've got it all written up. Yeah.
What does Namapasan mean?
Navapasanam
9 poison.
means 9 poisons.
Oh.
And it is an ancient formula that Bogar, an immortal yogi, discerned from Mother Nature. It's like, you know, certain herbs do certain health-related things for people, right? Well, like vitamins from Mother Nature. Well, how did they first understand which herbs was good for what? You know, many years ago, medicine men would go into the forest and would sit down next to a plant and just meditate, and the plant would impart the understanding of what its medicinal qualities were. And they started using it for that purpose. Or they'd watch, some people would watch the animals, which herbs they would eat when they were hurt, or then they were this or that was going on with them. And so they started discovering what the various qualities of the plants were. So Navapasanam is made up of 4,000 herbs that are exquisitely balanced and cooked, that the final ingredient turns this semi-liquid herbal mass into a stone-like substance. And when Navapasanam touches water or any liquid, it energizes it and it turns it into a medicine. And that's where the stories of the Fountain of Youth came from. You know, I can just imagine 7,000 to 8,000 years ago, ship captains would be sailing across the southern tip of India and stop, and they'd hear these stories about the Fountain of Youth. By the time it got back to Europe, Ponce de Leon was looking for it in Louisiana, right? It actually is the Navapasanam touching liquid or water that energizes the water, that turns it into a fountain of youth. And those that drink Navapasanam, all sorts of things start happening to them. Physically, you know, they start getting younger. If you're young, it helps you to grow up with more wisdom and the capacity to love and to realize why you're here at a younger age without having to, you know, kiss too many frogs. You understand what kissing frogs is? Not so much fun, right? So that's Navapasanam.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we have Navapasanam water. It's free for those that ask for it. You bring a gallon or two, and we dip the beads in your water, and you take it away, and you drink an ounce or two a day. And it's intentional medicine. It's intentional alchemy. So you set intentions for your physical body. What do you want for your physical body? Well, I want my physical body to be happy, to be healthy, to be disease-free, and whatever else you want. Then mental emotional. What do I want for my mental emotional? Well, I want to be strong mentally. I want to be confident in myself. I want to, you know, be kind and loving. You know, I want to have wisdom. Whatever it is that you want, mental, emotional. And then spiritually, whatever the words are that describe your highest spiritual aspiration. Whatever your tradition is, whatever your belief is, what are the words that describe your highest spiritual aspiration? And then you drink an ounce of the water. And it's best if you write down your intentions and read them out loud and then drink the water. Like that. So when I first brought the beads over, I gave them away to 9 healers, and then they gave me 3 strands of beads, 108 beads, and they set a really high price on it. Each bead is like over $3,000, and I just went, oh man, how is this going to work? A lot of my friends don't have money, and and then I'm going to talk about spirituality and money and all this stuff, and I kept praying and praying and praying and praying, and finally I heard this voice that goes, okay already, you can give the water away. And if anybody that gets the water and drinks it and is financially capable and comfortable and pesters you long enough, you can sell them a bead. And you have 100 years to find homes for these beads. And so that was really a blessing. So we've given away, I don't know, thousands of gallons of water and shipped it all over the world. If I ship, I let people pay for postage, but the water's free. So yeah, it's very, very, very trippy, and the path of these immortal yogis are I don't even know what to say. It's definitely for real. I know I grew up here in the West with, Jesus is the only example of an immortal. Well, in the Old Testament you had Elijah and Ezekiel, but nobody ever explained any of that. I don't think they knew. I don't think the nuns and the priests really knew, the depth of the path that, Jesus said, follow me. Well, okay. What are the, the prayers and everything, and I don't know, I just didn't relate to it as a kid, but, now I get it. I get it. So, any questions you want me to answer? There's other spiritual alchemy that came besides the Navapassanam. There's a powder that's made from blue sapphire gemstones that is, beyond comprehension. I bought $60,000 worth of sapphires and gave a handful of them to Papa Bogar, and 2 years later I got this little baggie with some ash in it. I don't know how he makes it. I don't know if he burns it or some sort of a formula that goes in, into a pod and something. I don't know, but I know that a match head of this blue sapphire, a bosmum. Bosmum is a word that means medicinal ash. Has quite a remarkable impact on consciousness in this body, and most people that have asked for it have reported the same kind of thing. It's available free to people that request it without questions, which is a real curious part of it, and the reason that it's available without questions is that it's only for people whose hearts can connect and they get a yes for it, and they know that it's for them. And then later on a pearl bosmum came, made from natural pearls, and it's the same thing. It's available free for people that, as long as it lasts anyways, they request it without questions. And it's very, very trippy, because the only people that ask for it, or that show up in a position to ask for it, their karma has already paid for it. So I ask that there be no thanks, as if I'm doing something. I mean, I'm like the delivery boy. It's the blessings from the immortals that it comes. And anybody that gets within a proximity to request it, it's because they have already paid for it with their karma. And so it's like that. And then there were some capsules that came of herbs, red capsules with herbs in it. And those are available free for those that request it without questions. 9 capsules. And those have a very subtle yet powerful impact on consciousness, awakening, prayer, meditation. And we think that they must come from the Siddha Loka, which is another dimension. So I remember when I brought the red capsules here, the first time I was given the herbs, Sri Raman calls me and he's with Papa, and he says, they have questions for you. I go, what kind of questions could they have for me? He says, they want to know if you'd be willing to take their herbs home to your friends. And I go, yeah. I had no clue what that was going to entail. So he brought me a duffel bag with 40,000 pills and capsules of herbs in it. And I'm thinking, all right, this ought to be fun going through customs, right? So they also gave me this other gold basma, and they said this is for special occasions. So I'm sitting on the plane getting ready to go into customs in LAX, and I thought, well, this is a special occasion, going through customs with 40,000 capsules and herbs and stuff. I said, let me take a little of the gold. So I took a little bit of the gold, and I just had this thought, I'd like to go through customs like the wind, just smooth and easy. So I walked through customs, and I go through the agricultural side, and I declared everything, and I handed the guy my paper, and he goes, what are you declaring? I didn't say a word. He said, nothing. And out of my mouth came, that's right, nothing. He said, you can go. So I picked up my bag and went. I had all sorts of explanation about what they were and what they were for, and I didn't know how long it would be, and it's all true, how long I was going to be back, and it was for my family, and on and on and on and on. And I declared the value at like $750 or something. So it's really really trippy from my perspective to just watch this stuff unfold. If you want more, I gotta ask some questions.
Tell us about the gold ash.
Gold ash powder?
The liquid.
What liquid gold?
Maybe I'm saying it wrong. The one that took 22 years?
Oh yeah, the gold ash powder? All right. There's a country called Burma that's now called Myanmar, and a friend of mine in San Francisco was there, and he met a monk that was given this formula from his lineage, and he put certain herbs in a pot, and he put 3 different metals or 5 different metals in a pot, hunks of metal, and herbs and fruit, and sealed it and put it on a fire and cooked it for 2 months and said prayers. Then he buried it. And he dug it up the next year, put it back on the fire for 2 months, said prayers, and then buried it. And he did that for 22 years. And they were all done. They opened it up, and it was this white powder. And they had it assayed in Hong Kong and Switzerland, and there was no evidence of any metal. And when they started giving it to people that were sick, they miraculously showed, they couldn't find any evidence of the disease or the illness. So he had 8 little bags of it. I bought those from him, and we mixed it up, and I have it in bottles in the other room. So it's interesting for some of these traditions to come from different traditions, the medicines that they have. I like it. Anything else?
And cut.
Huh?
And cut.
Yeah. Okay, we're done.
Remember, he's